Oh, hey man, where you been?
Yeah, I was busy working. I was selling myself.
What do you mean selling yourself? Why do you want money?
I need money for shiny cardboard.
Oh no.
I regret nothing. Hi guys, Freaky Fishka here with another video for you today. Sorry if you can't hear me so well. Currently in England we've got a lot of rain. We've had a week of blistering heat, but at the moment it is literally tipping it down outside. So if you hear a little bit of background noise, that is what that's going to be. As you can see in front of me, I may have invested a little bit of money again into this lovely card game that Konami keeps making. I bought an Eldlich core and a Numeron core as well, but the Numeron core is it's actually relatively cheap. The only really expensive parts are the Zexal itself. Everything else is like under £5 a card, which is quite nice. The Eldlich core. Obviously today we've got Numeron Eldlich, but this core in particular I'm going to be going through with many different decks. So you can see wacky things like Zodiac Eldlich, Cleave 4 Eldlich. I'm going to see if I can make that thing. Possibly things like Penguin Eldlich is something I've been testing online, and once I get the Penguin support, that's something I'll be throwing around. Paleozoic Eldlich, I'll give that a try. I'm not going to turn this into an Eldlich channel. I'm still going to do like more pure decks, but I may do like a pure deck and then a competitive version where I try. If the Eldlich version isn't the best, then obviously I won't do that. But I want to see how many things Eldlich can actually fit in well with and work. So I'm also interested in doing a pure Eldlich video at some point. I'm not going to do like the next few weeks, so just going to be Eldlich. There are still going to be normal stuff in between. I am still also waiting for locals to open up so I can do some videos of matches. If you are still the guys interested in watching matches, check out TheMCRAD. He's a friend of our old locals, so I used to go to old locals. I'll put his channel in the description. I'll put like a link up there as well. So if you want to watch matches, their locals has opened up again, and so go watch them. I'm not playing there, but some of the people that have been on my channel are playing there as well, so give them a good check out. Anyway guys, on to this deck. This is a weird deck. So before we had an old Numeron sort of Zexal Turbo with pendulums, which involved a very convoluted combo involving Beatrice and sending a rank up card to grave and ranking up and then adding that back. And it was really, really wacky, but it basically turned off your opponent's effects for one turn. So then Konami decided to make a whole archetype that does it anyway for free that can't be ashed, because why not? Add this to Eldlich and you've actually got a quite good meta deck going into the new format. The new format I'm going to say is going to be things like Dragoma, Eldlich, maybe some old guys from Salad Steel before, the Infernoble Knights, they look kind of fun. But basically it's going to be a weird, wacky new format along as well with obviously Rocks and Adamantipator. It's really weird because we haven't got a ban list in so long. All these meta decks are going to try and basically like power creep each other. It's going to be very similar to 2016 where we had things like ABC, Metalfoes, Paleo, they all came out, but they didn't get hit by any ban lists. They sort of just power creeped each other. And then Zodiac came out and just killed the whole lot in 2017. So I'm looking forward to this new format. When events start up, I'm actually looking forward to going to events just because I don't see the Zexal lock as too OP. I'm going to talk about some combos in today on how to get around it. Anyway, that is enough talking from me, guys. We're going to break down this deck profile. It is not the best version of this deck. I have obviously invested in the Eldritch Core, but I haven't got things like droplets that have just come out. Anything new that has just come out, as I haven't been to locals, I haven't been able to pick up much stuff. It's just what I'm ordering online. So if you have your own versions, obviously put those in the comments, what you would add, what you mind. So I'm playing one proxy as well in the extra deck, what we'll get onto, just because I don't have a certain amount of cards for certain things. Anyway, the main deck, guys, we are going to be playing 2 Eldritch the Golden Lord. This card is very expensive at the moment for good reason. It is free removal that you can put in any deck. Just if you have a spell card in your deck and you want some removal, you just play this, maybe discard this in a spell to remove cards, and it comes back from grave for free as well to basically be a 3,500 attack beat stick. It's a really key card in deck. We're only playing 2 because, spoiler alert, I only have 2. I didn't actually buy 3. This card was very expensive. However, this deck I'm playing today can get away with 2. I have tested this online for the past 2 weeks, and it works just fine with 2. Obviously, if your opponent does get rid of this with things like any banishing or call by the grave effects, then it can be a bit of a hard time. But 2 Golden Lord is pretty much a good ratio for this deck. You can add 3 if you want. Then we're playing 3 Numeron Wall. This card is actually really dumb. If you control any monsters, you can discard this card or send this card from hand to grave. You just want to discard it from field to grave. You don't want to summon it. And then activate 1 Numeron Network from deck. So it doesn't add to hand, so it can't be ashed. Also, it's kind of like a battle fader. If you take battle damage, you can discard this card and it ends the battle phase. So if for some reason you are losing and you take battle damage, you can discard this and then just survive a turn, which is really nice. But yeah, this is a really dumb card. Then we're playing 3 Ash and 3 Ogre. These are hand trap lineup in the main deck. Ash because, again, it's just the most generic hand trap. It's a really good card. Annoyingly can't hit wall or network, so it's actually losing some credibility. And that's also why we're playing Ogre, because Ogre can hit the network. It's seeing a revival. Blah, 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 blah. It's in a revival in play at the moment just because it can hit things like the wall, and also it's good against other cards like some Dragma things that can actually hit with their fields, because Dragma need the Dragon monsters on board to actually establish their game plan. Their traps are really, really good, but to win they obviously need their monsters on board to get the extra effect. So Ogre's actually not that bad at the moment. Also things like Infernoble Knights, like hitting a Zold, the first effect with an Ogre, so if they want to add something, it's really nice. Spell cards, 3 Pot of Extravagance. We're playing an expensive deck, might as well throw in some expensive cards. It's just free, draw 2. This deck does need its extra deck, but we're playing ratios that allow us to play Pot of Extravagance. Eldlich Pure doesn't need the extra deck at all, apart from maybe the Gustav Max Leap combo. So we can play Pot of Extravagance in this quite happily. And then we've got 3 Numeron Network and 1 Terraforming to search out the Numeron Network. Basically, if you control any monsters, you can send a Numeron Calling from your deck to the grave and then summon up to 4 Numeron Gate monsters from your extra deck, which is dumb. So again, with Numeron Wall, so this can't be ashed, this can't be ashed because it sends to grave for cost. This can't be ashed, you just summon 4 gates from your extra deck for free. Normally in the normal combo you only summon 3 in a normal combo, but you can summon up to 4. Yeah, this is a dumb combo, but I actually really like it. Without the Zexal lock, this combo is actually really fair. It's either a straight link 4, so it's kind of like old Scapegoat, or you can just maybe OTK your opponent with the Numerons themselves. It's quite nice. The way you out this is you Ogre this. Although if you have this in hand, you can activate it from hand. If you have this in the field spell, so this can't be ogred, so that's a way around playing around Ogre if you're playing this deck. If you open these and these in multiples, it's not the end of the world, because these can just be discarded with the Eldritch Lord for some spot removal. So they're not exactly bricks, but it does suck when you open like 2 of these, a Calling and a Numeron Wall. It's like, oh, what is that hand? So this deck isn't unbeatable. It can brick. 3 Eldland, pay 8, feel great. We're going back to Klee. I used to love playing Klee Fort Scout in Metal Foes and in Klee, so I like the pay 8, feel great. Pay 100 search, basically. You can't go wrong with that. And if it's sent to grave, you send 1 as well. So it's Foolish Burial and a send. It's a really good card. Activate it, add the Golden Lord, send this. Now you send a trap to grave, and now you can set the trap in the end phase because you banish a trap from grave. It's a really good card. I can't really go wrong with it. And we're actually playing 1 White Destiny. We're not playing the Black Awakening. Early on I was playing 1 Black Awakening over this, but as we're only playing 2 Golden Lord and we're playing 3 Scarlet, you quickly run out of targets. The Black Awakening can be nice because you can obviously activate it in your second turn to summon out a Golden Lord, start beating face, things like that, and you can banish it in your main phase. The traps need to be the end phase. But in the end I just swapped it out for a White Awakening just to give me a little bit more grind game. You can play Black Awakening, there's nothing wrong with that, but I prefer the White Destiny, sorry. Trap cards. This deck is inherently a control trap deck. Yes, it's playing a Numeron combo, but inherently Eldritch is a trap deck, so it will be slower. Lots of trap cans and basically try to outgrind your opponent, which is something, again, I like. I love trap decks. Playing 3 Scarlet Sanguine, summon a Golden Lord from deck. There at the moment there's only 1 Eldlich monster, so expect some more targets in the future. Maybe they might do a Sky Striker thing where they give us almost like a rose. I'd like to see a normal summon Eldlich monster. I think that'd be kind of fun, because that way you can normal summon, activate Scarlet, and then summon a Golden Lord from deck as well. All the traps have the same effect. You can banish them in the end phase to get the other type of track. So this one is an Eldlixir, same as the Eldlixir of the White Destiny, and then you can get a Golden Land trap. So for example, Conquistador of the Golden Land. So in the end phase, you banish Scarlet, grab a Conquistador or Hakero, or in the end phase, you can banish a Golden Land to get an Eldlixir trap, spell trap. So they kind of roll into each other, which is kind of nice. We are playing 3 Conquistador. With the traps, these traps, they summon themselves and then pop something or do another effect. So the primary effect is to summon themselves, and then if you have a Golden Lord on the board, they pop they do something else. So this pops a face-up card. Hakero's like DD Crow, it banishes a card out of your opponent's graveyard. The only thing that ever confused me about this card is when they first came out, is I always saw this as going to be the one with the more attack, because it's a Conquistador on a horse. I see that as more like an attacky type of artwork. I see the zombie pirates more defensive because they can't really die. These cards are level 5, so they can go into rank 5 as well, which is quite useful. They can also be used for tribute fodder, which is something I'll be playing around in the future. Monarchs. The interesting thing though is if your opponent pops them, so say if they go something, you train Hakero and then they go MST, pop the Hakero won't resolve because they need to summon themselves and then resolve to be the full effect. So MST negates guys in this year. Finally, guys, we are playing 1 Golden Land Forever. It's basically like the Infernity variant for the archetype, although you do have to tribute 1 zombie monster while you control a Golden Lord. So you can tribute 1 of the traps, you can tribute 1 of the Golden Lords if you need to, but it's basically a counter trap for the archetype, which is really nice. On top of that, to round out our hand traps, we are obviously playing 3 Imperm. This is just a generic staple that you can put in any deck. It is incredibly good. It's also really important in this format because this is an out to your opponent Zexal. Eldlich is weird. It can play around, say if your opponent Zexal locks you quite happily, because you can just set the trap cards and play in your opponent's turn, which is something I actually really like this format. I prefer trap decks because you can play around a Zexal. So something like BA, especially, I might be going back to. But yeah, Infinite Impairments is a really nice card. You can't really go wrong with that. And then we're also playing 3 Paleozoic Dynamiscus, just because I love this card, because it is extremely good removal. It can hit spells and traps, it can hit monsters, it can hit problem cards, it can do anything. Doesn't discard for cost, so if your opponent negates it, it doesn't lose you hand advantage. You play something like Phoenix Wing Windblast. And you can also discard things like the Conquistadors, or more importantly, Scarlet Sanguines, which will then get you in the end phase another trap. So you're not actually losing value. So you got like Paleozoic Dynamiscus, discard the Scarlet Sanguine. End phase, you banish Scarlet Sanguine, get access to a Conquistador. In your opponent's turn, you can use the Conquistador, which will then trigger the Paleozoic Dynamiscus. So you're actually getting 2 monsters on the board just off of 1 Paleozoic Dynamiscus. A lot of people aren't playing this, and I don't blame them because it is a little bit old and janky, but it has its uses. It's also really good at hitting things like Mystic Mine, key important things for rocks, because it banishes, doesn't destroy, so it gets around Block Dragon. Infernoble Knights, again, like an Isolde or an important combo piece, is really nice. It hits lots of things. Moving on now to the extra deck, guys. We are going to be playing 3 Utopic Zexal. I am proxying 1 just because I don't actually own 3, but we want to play 3 because it's very important, obviously, for a Pot of Extravagance. This card is dumb. When it's summoned, your opponent can't activate effects, so they can't negate its summon. They can't trap hole it as well, which is obviously not relevant, but it's something that it has protection against. In your opponent's turn, you can detach 1. Your opponent's cards and effects cannot be activated this turn. So you pop this off in their draw phase or their standby phase, and now suddenly your opponent cannot play the game. This is dumb. I don't know how long it's going to be in the game. It's not impossible to beat, like I said. If you're playing a trap deck, okay, you just set your back row and you just basically play in your opponent's turn. You can gamma this, you can imperm this, you can't effect veil it because they do it in their draw or standby, so that's a little bit of fairness to it. You can forbidden chalice this if you really need to. There's loads of ways you can play around this whole like gimmick of not letting your opponent play. It also gains 1,000 attack per material, so it needs 3 number X or Z monsters basically to be summoned. So the standard players, you summon 3 gates with cooling, and then you rank up. So it's going to have 2k attack once you first attach. This goes down to 1,000 and then down to 0. So it's not actually the biggest threat because it can't OTK your opponent. And that's the problem with this deck, it's a bit slow to kill your opponent. But otherwise, it's a fun thing. It's quite gimmicky. I don't know how long it's going to be around. To go with this, we are playing a few of the number Numeron monsters. We are playing a weird number, because this is going to sound weird, but I did a lot of math and I looked at other people's deck profiles and I played along with a lot of testing. I'm playing 3 of 1 just because that way with maths you're guaranteed to have 3 Numerons left, even after any bad pot of extravagance happening. So if you want to play 3 of any others, that's fine. If you want to play 2 of all of them, that's fine. Give yourself another spot, it's up to you. So this is what I have found mathematically and preferably to be the perfect ratio for me, just because I like them. So the standard combo is you just summon 3 of these and then go into Topic Zexal. That way it plays around Nibiru. However, if you're going second, you can just summon 4, and they do have effects. While you have the field spell up, you don't have to detach to activate the effects. So you summon 1 of each, and you then just go straight to the battle phase. After it attacks opponent's monster, they all can't be destroyed by battle, just for the record as well. So once you attack your opponent's monster, you can use the effect to double all of your number XYZ's attack, or your Numeron, sorry, attack. So swing becomes 2k, swing becomes 4k, swing becomes 4k, swing, sorry, 8k, swing, and then it's on 8k. This is a straight OTK through 2 monsters. And if you're playing things like Yep Double, Limit Removal, check out Farther streams, then things get kind of funny. Because Limit Removal in this deck can be kind of funny, and I might be testing one with a pure Numeron blind second deck. But as it is, they are just basically Zexal fodder or an OTK fodder. The other things you can make with these is a Megaclops, because you can just summon 3 and then go straight into Megaclops. Megaclops is an interesting card because it can be difficult for your opponent to out if they are playing a trap deck. If they're playing something very monster removal heavy, so things like Adamantipator or Infernoble Knights, it can be quite difficult to out a Clops, and the Clops can suck up an opponent's monster every turn and attach it to one of your XYZ monsters, which is kind of nice and kind of funny. Finally, we are playing 1 Pallades, 1 Volcasaurus. I know Volcasaurus is kind of very old school now, but the problem with Eldlich is it can't kill your opponent quickly unless you are playing Gustav Max. I'm not playing Gustav Max. You could, if you want to, just swap these out for Gustav Max, or clear some room with your Eldlich, with your Numeron monsters. Pallades is there to just rank up 2 of the Eldlich traps into Pallades and start bouncing things. Volcasaurus is there for time. The Numerons do have their own time card, but the problem with this is if you're going into time, you're all likely going to be in the late game, and if you're in late game, your Numerons can't really work because you need to control no monsters. So if you have any Eldritch traps, it just turns off the Numeron way for game, whereas a Volcasaurus, you can just slap a Hakera and a Conquistador, or 2 Conquistadors on top of each other, which you're more likely going to have because you are playing Eldlich after all, into a Volcasaurus, pop an opponent's monster, and burn for game that way. Obviously as well, it is also a 2,500 attack monster, same as the Eldritch Lord, so you can just start punching your opponent that way. Overall though, I do like these options. The annoying thing is I always banish the Pallades off of the extravagance, so if you want, you could just play 2 Pallades instead of a Volcasaurus. Again, as always, side deck is completely up to you. This is just some suggestions that I'm going to throw out. My side deck is kind of weird. Originally, when I played like Eldritch Online to test it, I was playing a very back row Floodgate heavy version, similar to Clean through Draco, because pay 8 feel great. And I very much liked that version. In fact, if I go to events and play a competitive deck, I might play the Floodgate version of Eldritch just because it doesn't lose to hand traps like Cherries, Gamma, Imperm so much, whereas the Numeron version does. Playing 3 Inspector Border, just because if your opponent doesn't really care about the they're playing a lot of hand traps to get around the Numeron combo, you can just slide in some Inspector Borders and just beat them that way, because Inspector Border backed up with Eldritch is still really, really nice and powerful. If we're going second, however, we're playing some Gammas, just because we don't want to be Zexal locked ourselves. Again, we don't really care about it, but it can be nice if we open, say, a lot of spell cards. Part of Extravagance is obviously a good thing to have to be able to use, so the Gamma's there just to stop the Numeron combo from going off for opponent, and it gives us 2 free monsters on board, including a 2/5 beat stick. So you can do a lot of things with these. It's quite nice. You could play an Omega as well in the extra deck if you're playing these in the main deck, just because that way the Omega can leave the field and make your Numeron combo live, because you need to control no monsters. That's something else I was toying with. I just liked the Volcasaurus more. So you could just throw in an Omega and then put those in the main deck. Also, to go second, we're playing 3 Lava Golem. This is weird because originally I was going to play Sphere Mode, because again, Eldritch don't need their normal summon, and we can clear 3 monsters with a Sphere Mode. However, again, I found Eldritch struggles in this variant to close out games quickly, The Numeron combo is only going to be a 2k monster. Eldlich themselves, without good staff max, don't OTK your opponent particularly well. You can put a lot of like 2-5 monsters on board, but not as many as needed for game. So again, the games do drag out. So when testing with some friends for a timed game, so 40 minutes on GB, I threw in these just to tribute 2 of their monsters because it's quite late game. And then in their standby phase, they lose 1,000. And then I can do a Conquistador or a Dynamiscus to remove the threat so I don't obviously lose. Did it work? Yes. Is it preferable? No. I would play a Sphere mode over this if I could. But with the time rules, I would just keep this in just because it's kind of interesting. Alternatively, you could play other things, like obviously Lightning Storm I don't have, to try and just clear out your opponent's board at back row to obviously OTK them that way. We are playing free Gozen match because again, harkens back to that floodgate build I liked. We can play through Gozen match quite easily because all our stuff is light. Things like dinosaurs can't really, they struggle. Adamancipator really struggle playing through this with their Dragite being water and a Rapite being wind and most of the other stuff being earth. Infernoble Knights is iffy because a lot of stuff is now fire, but Isolde is light, so you can maybe trick them out with a Gozen match, or maybe the Flintlock Lady. Altergeist, this can also hurt a lot because again they're all different attributes. Gozen match is just a really nice card and we can play through it quite easily. Also, once you've stunned their play, it was also fodder for a Golden Lord on board, so you can send this from your field to the grave to add back the Golden Lord and then summon it from your graveyard. Finally, the last card we're playing, I'm just testing it, is the El Dorado, the one I can never pronounce. This one, just because it can again come up in time and it's quite nice to recur some of resources. So say if you're playing a really grindy game, so say if you're playing against Altergeist or Sky Striker, you can replenish a lot of your banished cards and basically maybe grind out your opponent a little bit, especially with BA coming back and a resurgence with the Zexal lock. Annoying of this card though is not searchable by other trap cards. It's not an Eldlich trap or a Golden Land trap, so you can't search it out, which is the only key problem and why I'm only playing one. You could play Trap Trick in this deck as well, but I'm just not at this current time. Anyway guys, that was my Numeron Zexal Eldlich deck profile. So if you liked it, please like, subscribe, give us a good shout. I love playing and showcasing decks for you guys. Hopefully, like I said, we'll be playing some matches soon. Still waiting for locals to open. However, I'm always uploading a deck profile relatively every week. Some weeks, like last week, I might miss out just because work is starting to get a little bit more busy as lockdown is opening up. But otherwise, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.